Hey, greetings, everybody. I want to talk today about soul and the unique Catholic perspective on soul, right? So, this is an idea that's actually, strangely, I think, but I mean, what do I know? It's an idea that's actually kind of hotly contested these days as increasingly the culture that we live in becomes secularist, right? So, secularist meaning no longer professing any religious belief, no longer being guided by any religious principles. And also, in a lot of senses, it's going to mean as secularists, you're going to kind of redefine for yourselves, whether that's culturally or individually, your view of the human person. I'll have lots more to say on that topic in other videos, but I wanted to kind of, in a sense, begin at the beginning, right? Because the Catholic Church has always looked at the human person and said that man, and by man, of course, you mean collectively men and women, not just dudes, human persons, that the difference between man and other creatures, animals, and plants and whatnot is not just a difference of degree, as in man is the highest and best critter, but is a difference of kind. We're fundamentally, ontologically, essentially, by our nature, a different kind of creature than animals and plants and stardust and whatever, although, of course, we have a physical body. And at the heart of that difference, the difference of kind, is our soul, right? So Frank Sheed, a great Christian apologist, English apologist of the 20th century, he made this great point. He said, the soul of man is the only soul, which is a spirit, and the only spirit, which is a soul. So to understand what he means by that, you have to kind of define both soul and spirit. So for the definition of soul, there's lots of different ways you could nuance it, especially if you wanted to get into the philosophy of soul, but fairly handy definition that still holds today as much as it did 3,500-ish years ago, comes to us from Aristotle. And Aristotle said, soul is that principle which gives life and unity to a body. Soul is that principle which gives life and unity to a body. Now that means that all living things have souls, right? They all have bodies, and which means that there's a principle in them that gives life to the body and unity to the body, holds it together and makes it alive. And so then Aristotle went on to define there's three different levels of soul. There's the vegetative, there's the animal, and then there's the rational. So vegetative souls would be plants, animal souls, animals of all various kinds, from single-cell organisms all the way up to complex primates and mammals and whatnot. And then the rational soul is proper only to the human person. No other kinds of critters have a rational soul. And the difference between those degrees of soul is the powers that they have, right? So vegetative soul is the simplest of all of the souls. It gives life and unity to the body, but in the very most basic way. The animal soul has an additional power, which is called the sensitive power. And the sensitive power means that animals can sense things outside themselves and, in a sense, apprehend and interact with those things, right? So a wolf on the Arctic tundra can see and smell and hear a herd of caribou coming by, and that triggers an instinct in the wolf to go and to hunt that caribou. At the same time, the caribou can hear and smell the wolves coming, and that triggers their instinct to flee from the predator, to preserve their lives. And so animals can interact with one another and with the world that they live in through their senses. But only human beings can rationally apprehend and rationally understand the world. So there's this power of the human soul that allows human beings to know and to will and to choose rationally. And because human beings can know, will, and choose rationally, we can also love, which is a big deal. And so Aristotle looks at that and he says, so the highest power of the human soul is our rational power. We have all the powers that vegetables and animals have, that plants and animals have in our soul, but we have this additional power of reason. So the Catholic tradition is going to just take up Aristotle's definition. Aquinas will kind of baptize Aristotle, his whole philosophy, but on the idea of soul, Aquinas will say that this is what God breathes into the biological union of our human parents. Dad provides sperm, mom provides egg. Those two come together, but each human person is made a human person by virtue of the fact that God breathes into that biological union, a unique, unrepeatable, immortal soul, a rational human soul. And that soul is the principle that gives life and unity and orders that body and makes it a human person. So all that, there's soul. Now spirit, Sheed says spirit are those beings which know will, choose, and can love. So there you go. What did he just describe? He just described the rational power of the human soul. So our soul is a spirit. It's the lowest of the created spirits. The other created spirits are the angels. And the hierarchy of being, the ranks of the perfection of being, God is infinitely above everything he's created. But of the things he's created, the highest, most perfect, and most powerful are the angels. They themselves are broken down into the 9 choirs, from seraphim to cherubim, to thrones, dominions, powers, principalities, all that stuff. Another video for another time. But this hierarchy of created spirits ends with the human soul. The human soul is a spirit. It knows, wills, chooses, and can love. And by the spiritual power of our soul, we're able to be rational creatures, meaning human beings. However, we're the lowest of the created spirits. We're the only created spirit which is actually joined in union with a body, which limits us and limits the way that we know and the way that our spiritual soul interacts. But the flip side of that is also really interesting. We're the only spirit that's a soul. We're the only soul that's a spirit. We're also the only spirit that's a soul. None of the other creative spirits are souls. Again, remember what a soul is, that principle that gives life and unity to a body. Angels don't have bodies, so they're not souls. They're pure intelligences, they're pure spirits. We're the only union, the only combination of a soul which is a spirit and a spirit which is a soul. So this is this unique thing. And every human soul is willed into existence, breathed into existence. So we ought also to see that what the Catholic Church has always understood about our spiritual soul, and that is, at the moment of our creation, the biological union of sperm and egg from mom and dad, God breathes into that matter, that material, that physical stuff, a new soul. Very much like at the very beginning, he forms up the body of Adam from the dust of the earth, stardust from the cosmos. He brings that all together. He forms it up into the body of the man. And then he does what? He breathes his spirit into the man. And so one of the most profound and central ways in which we're created in the image and likeness of God is this spiritual soul. Our soul, which is a spirit, the spirit, which is a soul, and by which we're able to know, we're able to will, we're able to choose, and therefore we're able to love. Okay, so that's the soul part of this. Spirit, which is a soul, soul, which is a spirit, makes us unique and different kind of creature. And then it allows us then to begin thinking about all the other important things that are true of man. So there you go, a little tutorial on soul. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for whatever's next.